Okay. Good evening. Welcome to another segment of the Heartbeat of the Okanagan. My name's Kevin, and I'm with Locals Supporting Locals. And we just finished up from the council meeting this evening, where I spoke to delegation concerning the smart meters that have been installed here in Penticton. 2/3 now of Penticton have been installed. They are referring to them as AMRs, which is still under the smart meter technology. So what I actually did was actually bring in Curtis Bennett here, a certified electrical professional, to provide the science and the facts. He was requested actually to speak to the Canadian Parliament on the health effects and the frequencies of this technology. So we just finished up. Now we're over here at Fibonacci's Cafe having a question and answer for anybody who has any important questions about this technology. Good evening, Curtis. Thank you very much for coming.
Listen, good evening to you guys, and listen, thanks for having me. It's that important an issue. I'm going to just keep going from here?
Yes, if you could.
Okay, no, listen, it was nice, very progressive of your council to let us speak, and very progressive of Kevin, and for you guys to step up there and have that representation to hold your council accountable. But here's something to consider with this too. When Health Canada did not pass on to the provinces that the frequencies were hurting people and the application of the law changed, that really disadvantages any administration trying to deal with that. BC doesn't have that excuse because this was reported to Premier Campbell's office, to the BC Energy Minister, to all the above. And again, what these guys haven't done is they haven't passed this on to municipalities. They've gotten political on a very technical and a very disturbing issue where an unintentional frequency weapon is being used on our population, our pollinators, our economy, and all the above.
If you can touch on maybe here, Curtis, is there any difference between the technology of AMRs and smart meters?
Anything that's wireless, and the important part is that, you know, full disclosure for everybody. You want to know if the meters are transmitting, are they receiving? If they're wireless, more work needs to be done before they implement any of them, because we're going to have electrical incompatibilities with humans. And something they're doing in this bigger picture too, which I've actually been informed of, is that they want these original electrical meters to go on the outside of your building. And Fortis told me in Kelowna that these things are actually set up for other frequencies because they're going to have them talk to water meters. They're going to have them talk to other meters. They want them to talk to appliances inside the house. And this smart grid might seem like a good idea. We're not electrically compatible, and these frequencies are hurting people. When they talk about electro hypersensitivity, we refer to that in our industry as electrical failure. Health Canada says if people are stimulated, it's going to cause nerve and muscle problems, and guess what? This is stimulating tissue and stimulating people, and it needs to stop.
Well, for parents like Mike here is a brand new dad, how do these frequencies affect children, adults, and seniors?
That just kind of breaks my heart to hear that, because, again, something that's important for everybody to understand that's watching this tape is we are not lobbyists. Safety Code 6 is the code, the guidelines, the standard, it doesn't matter what you call it, governing the limits of human exposure to these frequencies. It is the only code in the world that I've ever heard of that says we don't know the mechanism linking these frequencies to adverse health effects, but we know they're heating up, so we'll just continue on doing this. So what we ended up doing is presenting for Canadian Parliament's Standing Committee on Health related to this, and told them the mechanism has been reported. Now the significance of this is that, have you heard that the World Health Organization reported that cell phone radiation was there was a possible link between cell phones and brain cancer? Us reporting the link took the possible out of the discussion. If Canada would have passed on to the World Health Organization and what had been reported to them by their professionals, cell phones would have been called at Group 1 carcinogenic, definitely carcinogenic and cancer causing. So here's that horrible negligence that went on. And again, I hope this is on right now, because, listen, I can be held accountable for my opinion, and I want to be. It is negligent and criminally negligent to know that you're hurting people. and keep going forward with this. It's illegal to do that. You can't hurt people and make an economy out of it. Now, when you talk about this young man up here having a brand new baby, to read an article here in BC, sudden infant death rate. You know what that is? SIDS, sudden infant death. Because of this, guess what? SIDS rates are up 30% over last year in BC. And to contact them and to say, have you ruled out these frequencies? And they said, please send us information on this. We haven't talked about it. But for me to contact and lecture medicine and say, could these things affect the nerves of vulnerable children? The answer is yes. Safety Code 6 says this. If they're stimulated, it's going to cause nerve and muscle stimulation, so that validates what's happening. When frequencies are going through walls and roofs and material, they're not coming to a screeching halt at your body. So when you think about a fetus, you think about a pregnant mom, you think about these horrific issues where we're just not electrically compatible. And so for this young man here, horrifying. But here we are again. The coroner's office has asked for information. The BC coroner's office is also out of the Solicitor General's office, which is the policing arm for the province of BC. And the reason we reported this again is to tell these guys to duck, because who wants liability for this? Who wants liability for hurting a child, for taking out a senior, for doing any of these things? And plus, more disturbing than that is to have people with extended care facilities that are under the guidelines of Interior Health, the BC government, calling and saying, would these frequencies interfere with the health monitoring equipment inside the buildings? And the answer is yes. They're smothering it in a power density, and when they say power, they're admitting this. Volts times amps. They're admitting this. But we're only going to smother you just a little bit with this. So this is just a horrific issue that has gotten out of hand because of politics and self-interest groups, unfortunately.
So with the seniors, and this is something very important for the seniors here in Penticton, because a lot of them do have pacemakers, do these frequencies mess with that as well?
Here's what the horrible part is. When a retired professional came to me, and then I got calls after the fact. Here's a retired guy that's worked his whole life long building industry and doing everything. Here's a grandfather, and there's a pacemaker that's put in by Interior Health, paid for by taxpayers. And here are the instructions on that pacemaker say, stay out of electromagnetic fields. The hospital tells them that. Stay out of electromagnetic fields. Smart meters and these wireless frequencies are taking the electromagnetic field to your home, where this cannot be ruled out as interfering with that device. And making it worse for us is that when I brought this information forward as a credentialed electrical professional, not lobbying anything, I wanted them to step up and say, here's what you missed, and here's how we can substantiate that. The fact that they have ignored it, not qualified me, not disqualified any of this, and now it's lectured. And here's another thing for people to think about. This is lectured in medicine and medical education for education credits, doctors, dentists, nurses, need for licensing, and applicable in the whole United States. These frequencies are in court in the United States right now, where the difference is these guys are taking this missing mechanism into a courtroom where the judge is going to find these guys, these frequencies are illegal. What are we doing? Do we want a piece of that action? Who's going to pay for this stuff? Taxpayers. We're going to pay for that. And again, here's the thing, the most important in medicine. As an electrician, I'm a journeyman electrician with a building engineering background and I lecture medical education. The hard lines for this in medicine are when they said, what's the bottom line behind this? And the bottom line is extinction. This is taking out, have you seen where this is taking out foliage around meters? Greenery? They've actually done studies in Europe, and again, the fact they ignored them, that they put these frequencies against trees and leaves, and it caused necrosis, which is a state of dying. And so here we are, as other professionals, imaging watersheds for groundwater, for fish spawning. And if we knock the foliage off of the trees and expose the surface of the planet to this other radiation, listen, hell is coming for what we're doing. And they're advancing this so fast that the Canadian auto workers contacted us and said they want to put 8 wireless cameras in the buses in Vancouver. And they want to do this supposedly with great intent to protect the drivers, to do all things, but they're all wireless. Their questions to me, will this affect our drivers? Will this affect the seniors getting on the buses? And I said, you think, oh my God. And you think of 8 cameras, and you think of the power density as in this bus, and you're effectively being thrown inside the wire. You're inside the circuit now, except you're vulnerable and unprotected from it.
Well, right here in Penticton, actually, we do have cameras when you come on the bus. So
Are they wireless?
I don't know, actually.
And here's the important part. Here's the important part. And even again, I want to refer to Wi-Fi with this. I didn't know what Wi-Fi was. That's how bad I am. But the reason that is that as electrical professionals, there's reasons we pull wires. Could you imagine if we had the luxury of saying, listen, let's just radiate the whole town of Penticton, and too bad for the person that grounds himself out because it's going to knock their socks off. We wire things for particular reasons. And when I went into a Wi-Fi application and found that what they're doing is they're radiating an entire school, all the kids in it, to avoid construction costs and pulling wires. So, and Safety Code 6 is based on 6 minutes exposure to a guy my size. I think it's based on 6 minutes exposure to a guy that, what do they say, 6'2" and 250 pounds, whatever the heck it is. What is this doing to a baby all day long? What is this doing to our children? And the bottom line is it's no good, especially with these guys ramming this forward without informing you and without telling people that these technologies are dangerous. And I want you to tell you that I'm jealous because I don't have an iPhone. I don't have a cell phone. I don't get any of that stuff like that. And I'm kind of jealous because those things are pretty sweet nowadays. But there are reasons we plug things in. There are reasons why young men are not supposed to put those cell phones in their pockets next to their baby makers. Because this is radiating your testicles. And you know how guys are with those things. You can be hit by a plane. If a plane was rushing towards you, a guy would put his hand over his groin. So, and again, just very important. Same thing even with women. When we've imaged women actually with for breast-related issues, to see these people lit up. When we've imaged people related to other health-related issues, I've said to guys, "What the heck happened to your ear?" And the guy said, "What's the matter with my ear?" And I said, "Your ear is just lit up like a Christmas tree, dude. What are you doing?" He said, "I'm a cell phone." He said, "I'm a cell phone salesman." I said, "Tell me this is your cell phone ear." And he said, "Yes." And here's his ear, lit up like a Christmas tree. And I said, "Here's what you have to do. Switch ears so you radiate your head evenly." Because horrible. This is penetrating your skull. Imagine the World Health Organization with these frequencies, same as a smart meter, same as a cell phone. It's causing such an aggressive brain cancer called glioma that it takes out 80% of the people in the first 12 months.
What's Safety Code 6?
Safety Code 6 is that, now there's lots of argument on this, but you guys can imagine this as electrical professionals. We're governed by Canadian Electrical Code, buildings, BC Electrical Code, BC Building Code, Alberta Building Code, National Building Code, laws pertaining to everything. Safety Code 6 is Canadian government's guidelines to the limits of human exposure to radio frequencies between 3,000 kilohertz, 3 kilohertz and 300 gigahertz, which 3 kilohertz means 3,000 cycles per second. 300 gigahertz means 300 billion cycles a second. That's how fast they're going. So when you think about even this issue here with Safety Code 6, they said to me, they're heating up, and I said, when this goes through their tissue and you're being hit by Wi-Fi, you've got parts of your body that are trying to molecularly change direction 4.8 billion times a second. We're not designed for it. And again, because doctors said this to me too, they said, can't you get one formula for everybody? And I said, we're all a different DNA, different physiology, different function, different all the above. So guess what? This is affecting people from head to toe. And doctors are reacting to the symptoms with, guess what? Pharmaceuticals. And pharmaceuticals that, hey, we've got this anxious guy. Well, let's sedate the heck out of him. And look at that. Just give this guy a little bit of legal morphine and it's all good. And again, it's just a horrible way of reacting to symptoms. So this issue, again, safety code 6. You can look it up if you go to thermalguy.com. You'll actually see copies of safety code 6. Go to our blog, you can link to it. First 9 pages, take a look at it. If electrical engineers, and this is actually what I did with an electrical engineer, he said, Curtis, there's a low power density, and I said, electrical engineer, I said, what the heck did you do with the frequencies of the human? How did you incorporate that into this discussion? And guess what? They weren't told humans had frequencies, or electrical engineers would not have agreed with this code at all. They weren't told humans had any electrical properties. They just said, look at that, they seem to be heating up, kind of like the tissue in a microwave, which is a ridiculous science to move forward. But again, with safety code 6, the unfortunate result of having a code that admits missing a mechanism brings us to a point now when that mechanism is reported, they've created this horrible issue as a result of that. But it is the law governing this. BC Hydro, everybody has to comply with safety code 6. And so you got a deficient code, but it is what it is.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I have some that are...
Come on up.